Chapter 33, Fundamentals of Hydraulic and Air over Hydraulic Braking Systems, Day 2, Video 4, Master Cylinder. So as we continue along here talking about the master cylinder, we've got a little bit better diagram here that's showing the actual components inside here. So here's our the single bore here with two pistons in it, so a primary piston, secondary piston. Then that reservoir with the spare capacity of the fluid in here, so that as that brake fluid is transferred out, we've got plenty of fluid in here so that we don't start introducing air into the system. Okay, on this end we would have the brake booster here, and then the brake pedal coming down here for the operator to push on, and then a connection between that pedal right here to our primary piston. Right, so as we push down on the pedal, that linkage is going to come through and start to push on this piston this direction. So we've got a spring here that is holding this piston back, and then we've got the fluid is available on both sides of this piston here on the primary piston. So as the piston starts to move, it's going to close off the compensating port here, and now it's a closed system. Right, the piston is here, and as I push it further this way, we're in an enclosed area here, and we start to pressurize that brake fluid. That pressurized brake fluid is able to escape through this port right here, through the brake lines, out to the wheel cylinders. Right, so the primary side has a direct connection to the brake pedal. Right, through the linkage through the brake booster to the primary piston. Secondary piston, right? Same principle that happens on that, but we are using pressure from the primary side right here. We're pressurizing this fluid, which is acting on the back side of the secondary piston. So that 5 pounds of pressure that we're creating is coming through and actually pushing the secondary piston over. The same thing happens here with our filling and compensating ports on the master cylinder to fill that cavity with fluid. As it moves past, now we've got a closed system, and that 5 or 10 pounds that's working on the piston here is acting here and pushing this piston with that much force, creating the 5 or 10 pounds of force here, or pressure on the secondary side, and that brake fluid, pressurized fluid, is traveling out, going to work to the rear brakes. Right, so we've got one reservoir, two separate chambers, right? One bore with two separate pistons, primary and secondary. Again, like I typed, so we've got the reservoir on top to make sure that our primary and secondary have a surplus of fluid up there, so no air enters the system. We'd have one master cylinder for the brakes with two pistons in it. So our primary and secondary brakes is all done with that one master cylinder. And then again, that direct connection from the brake pedal to the primary piston, right? And then a hydraulic connection between the primary side to the secondary side, by that pressure acting on that secondary piston, right? So there's a balance there. Whatever I create here on the primary side, that same amount of pressure is working on the secondary side. If we have an issue, all right, so the primary is actuated manually, secondary is actuated hydraulically from the primary side. If we have a failure in the primary side, right, we cannot create pressure, we've got a broken line or something like that, this piston will move through, keep moving through, until we've got this rod here that actually physically contacts the secondary piston, and then that will push the secondary piston to create the pressure on the secondary side. That's a fail-safe. If we have a failure in the primary side, the brakes will still actuate on the secondaries.